The first step is to install the side pieces or returns. Measure the depth of the cabinet and subtract 1/4 of an inch or 1/2 an inch. It depends how deep you want them to recede from the front edge. This will give you the length of each side piece. Set the receding distance on a combination square and trace under every cabinet. In this case, we're using 1/2 an inch. This will create an even distance between the front edge and the valance. The two angles you will most likely encounter are 90 degrees and 45 degrees. For a 90-degree corner, the miter angle should be set to 45 degrees. For a 45-degree corner, the miter angle should be set to 22.5 degrees. Cut and install the side pieces first. With an L-shaped bracket and using a scrap piece to make sure they line up perfectly, attach the bracket to the rear end of the side piece. Next, place it against the wall and screw it into the cabinet along the pencil tracing. When we move to the front piece, measure along the pencil tracing from corner to corner and cut the piece 1/2 an inch longer. Then place this piece against the mounted side and you will be able to get the precise length for your second cut by marking where the two lines intersect. Cut the piece along the pencil marking with your miter saw, being sure to set the saw to the correct angle for your application. Pre-drill the cabinet base. In this case, we are drilling 3 screw holes. For long valances, 3 or 4 screws will work. Smaller pieces will need only 2. Apply carpenter glue on the end, then, using a clamp to keep the piece in place, make sure everything aligns and nail it with your pin nailer. The glue will hold the side piece to the front piece securely. Use a damp cloth and clean up any excess glue before it dries. Screws will pull the valance up against the base. We are using number 6 1.5" screws to create a strong and tight fit. This will straighten and strengthen the cabinet base and stop any light from leaking through. It is likely that your joint will not be perfect. Use the soft putty from your veneering kit to fill the gap and cover the nail holes. Then blend it in with your touch-up marker. It's time to install decorative moldings. In this case, we are applying fluted fillers on this island to make it look more elegant. It's amazing how a few extra details can drastically improve the look of your kitchen. Apply construction adhesive or carpenter glue to the filler and attach it to the island. When you're happy with the alignment, nail it in using the long pin nails. Pin nails only hold the piece on until the adhesive dries, so you must apply the glue. You will hide any visible nails with putty later on. Order your fluted fillers slightly longer than the height of your cabinets so you can cut them to fit when installing. If you don't choose to use fluted fillers, a more affordable alternative are simple corner cap moldings. To get the putty into a workable state, warm it up by working it with your hands. Then fill any pin nail holes on exposed panels. You may also need it where horizontal veneer intersects with vertical veneer. Try to keep the putty within the needed area and avoid getting it onto your finished surface. Rub off any excess putty and, if necessary, use the touch-up marker included in your veneering kit to blend the color. Earlier, we sanded down the edges of the trimmed veneer. Now it's time to blend these edges using the touch-up marker. This will match the color of your sanded edge to the color of your veneer. The touch-up marker will be a close match. If you're not happy with the color, visit your local hardware store for a wider selection. Use a damp cloth to wipe off any marker stain from the finished surface. Anywhere we wrapped the veneer needs to be lightly sanded with 120 grit paper and touched up with a marker. This is necessary because we're working with real wood veneer, so naturally the wrapping will result in cracks on the corners. It's now time to put hinges on the doors. Prepare a work area where the doors won't get scratched or damaged when attaching the hinges. Using a square to line up the hinge perfectly parallel to the door edge. Pre-drill holes for the hinges, not more than ½ inch deep. Proceed to fasten the hinge with a number 6 5/8 of an inch screw. When you're done, clip the plates onto the hinge. Your doors are now ready to be installed. If you have doors that require glass, you need to order the glass from a local retailer, and you'll need to provide the correct measurements. For the glass sizes, place the door face down and measure the inside opening. The glass measurement needs to be 3/16 of an inch smaller than the width and the height. When installing doors, always start on one end of the kitchen and work your way across. Try not to jump from one side to the other. To begin, clamp a piece of wood to the base of the lower shelf. This will take some of the weight and align the door. Make sure you have the correct door for the opening you're starting with. Holding it with one hand, fasten the top hinge with one screw, keeping the door roughly 1/8 to 1/4 of an inch away from the cabinet. Once the top screw is in, check the alignment and fasten one of the screws on the bottom hinge. Never put all 4 screws in at once. We will be adjusting the alignment of each door later on, so 1 screw per hinge is enough for now. Complete this process for the remaining doors. Once all the doors are installed, it's easy to move along and align the doors one by one. Hinges in a European kitchen usually have 3 adjustment screws. One screw moves the door up and down, another adjusts the door left to right, and the third screw moves the door in and out. Some trial and error will allow you to quickly understand how each adjustment screw works. There are several types of Lazy Susans, so your installation may be different than the one we describe here. If you have a Lazy Susan, pre-sink 4 1-inch screws around the perimeter of the panel. It is always good practice to pre-drill before installing these screws. Next, clamp the door onto the Lazy Susan panel and drive the screws all the way in. If you need to make the doors narrower, use the table saw to do so, making sure that you are shaving the hidden edge of the door. Once you've received your glass, you will need to install it into the doors. Place the door face down on a soft table, making sure not to scratch it. Gently insert the glass into the door, then take the rubber strip we have provided and push it into the groove. If the fit is too tight, stretch or warm up the rubber and it should fit correctly. Once you reach the corner, cut the rubber using your utility knife, making sure not to damage the wood or scratch the glass. If you have a particle board or wood box, start by pre-sinking your 1-inch screws. Make sure these screws line up with the solid wood on the drawer front and not with the thin central panel. In this case, the central panel is only 1/4 of an inch thick, so you don't want to be screwing into that section. Close the drawer and align the front with the cabinet door. Then open the drawer, clamp it down to hold it in place, and drive in the screws. A little angle while screwing may be required for your drill. It's always good practice to pre-drill before installing these screws. To adjust the alignment, loosen one screw and move the drawer accordingly. Take your time, and when you're happy with its position, tighten the screw.